Hello everyone, and I hope this message finds you all safe and well. What I want to talk about today is the budget. Clearly, local government and indeed the country have got some significant financial challenges. 12 months of COVID-19 means that the costs to the council of that have been absolutely huge. It's cost us around £40 million in terms of supporting services with all the extra pressure of COVID, and we've lost about £20 million in income due to lack of business rates and people not being able to pay their council tax bills. We have had some money from the government, but overall that's left us with about a £14 million gap. The good news is we can bridge that gap because the council's finances are in a very strong position. Despite 10 years of austerity, Barnsley Council, through strong and effective management and particularly financial management, is in as good a position as any council can be to cope with the pandemic and the issues that it throws at us. So clearly we're thinking about next year and what we've got to do in relation to that. Well, we know there are going to be extra costs for children's services, for adult social care, for things like home to school transport and for waste management services as we continue to have restrictions on the way we work and what people can do. But we've built what we think are sufficient extra costs next year to make sure we cover all that and do the right things. But of course, people are concerned about council tax bills as we move towards a balanced budget. The government have talked about councils increasing council tax by 5%. Well, we're certainly not going to do that because we know people are under significant financial pressure. Our proposals next year mean a 1.4% increase in council tax for council services and 1.5% to cover adult social care costs because the government is placing that burden back onto local people. And I don't think that's right. But we're not going to leave our older people after 12 months of COVID without the help and support they need. So overall, that means a 2.9% increase in council tax. And whilst no one welcomes an increase in bills, I hope people understand that we think that's reasonable given the circumstances and given that many councils across the country will be going at 5% or other significant increases. But as I say, we do recognise that those on the lowest incomes may struggle to pay their bills. So we're improving the council tax benefit scheme for everyone in that scheme, and that's around 15,000 families, and they'll see a reduction next year in their bill of around £125. So at the same time as maintaining services and looking after those in most need, we're conscious to protect those on lowest incomes from any significant increase, indeed taking the bills down rather than up. But of course, there are other things we want to do next year as part of the council's financial planning. The glassworks will continue. That's a capital investment, but we'll bring that to fruition later in the year. We're building a youth zone for our young people, so they've got the very best facilities to access here in Barnsley. We're trying to deal with the flooding problem, so there's money in the budget next year to invest in areas that struggle from flooding and all that brings with it. And we're conscious that investment just doesn't need to go into our principal towns, but it needs to go into the rest of the borough, into those other district town centres and areas that clearly have businesses that have been affected. So investments to be brought forward to help around that. And of course, once the COVID pandemic starts to come to an end, as the vaccine hopefully does its job, we've put aside £12 million to help economic recovery, to get businesses back on their feet, and hopefully we can have a thriving borough with employment again. Of course, we're looking towards 2030, and the council has big ambitions to create jobs for our people and new homes for our people, particularly our children and our grandchildren. They're going to want a better life. They want us to learn from COVID-19 and make sure they've got educational, employment, social and housing opportunities that everybody can be proud of. So we're beginning to build that process as well. Keep safe and let's work together for a much better Barnsley.